Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We've made it to the end of Love's Labour's Lost. Well, anyway, today's the last monologue thereof, and then we're going to have a little wrap up about it. So, stuff that has happened. Everybody has kind of paired off, or was about to maybe sort of pair off, until we found out that the Princess of France's father died, and she has to go back to France. And each of the ladies is now in the process of making a deal with their respective gent that he has to do a thing for the next 12 months. And if he still is in love with her at the end of the 12 months, having done this thing, then maybe they can have a conversation about it and get married again. So Rosaline, who we get to hear from today in Act 5, Scene 2, as it is known in many versions, Act 5 as it is known in the folio, because he didn't split it into scenes, is talking to Barone. And yesterday's monologue, she said to Barone, you know what, you're going to have to do, and if you don't do this thing, I'm not going to marry you, but for the next 12 months, you have to visit sick people and make them laugh. And his response is like, wait, what? People who are like on their deathbeds don't feel like laughing. That's not a thing. And Rosaline says, why, that's the way to choke a jibing spirit, whose influence is begot of all that loose grace which shallow laughing hearers give to fools. A just's prosperity lies in the ear of him that hears it, never in the tongue of him that makes it. Then, if sickly ears, deafed with the clamors of their own dear groans, will hear your idle scorns, continue then, and I will have you, and that fault withal. But if they will not, throw away that spirit, and I shall find you empty of that fault, right joyful of your reformation. So, I kind of love this, and there's a lot that's been going around in the last couple of years about comedy and how people, like, it feels like you can't say anything anymore because everything is going to offend somebody. So I love the line, a just's prosperity lies in the ear of him that hears it, never in the tongue of him that makes it. So what she's saying here is things are like can land on people and make them laugh, whether or not the person saying it intended it to be funny, and or vice versa. You know, the person, if you intend to make something funny, it might not land correctly on your audience and they won't laugh. So she's like, why don't you go and try being your old snide self with all of these sick people, and if they want to listen to you rather than sit there and be sick and about to die, then great, and you will have made people laugh for a year. And if they don't want to listen to you after a year of doing this, after a year of realizing that maybe you're not as funny as you think you are, then you'll be rid of your snide, cocky spirit, and I will happily take you then, too. And it almost sounds like she would prefer him that way. But anyway, so that's the bargain that she makes with him, that he has to go away, and he's like, okay, fine, I will. And then Armado comes in, and he's like, does anybody want to hear the last little bit of the play? We have a song that's about a cuckoo and an owl that we had prepared, so maybe that's a good note to end things on. And they decide that, yeah, before they leave so she can go and bury her father, they're going to sing a song about a cuckoo and an owl, which I haven't been doing the songs from Shakespeare. Technically, the song is longer than 12 lines of uninterrupted text sung by two different people. One person sings about the cuckoo, one sings about the owl. There are other characters, but they can be played by any of the other clowns. Sometimes they're played by Holofernes and Nathaniel. Whatever ends up working out for that particular production. And depending on who does it, it can bring about even more sexual innuendo that exists in the song. But basically, the bit about the cuckoo bird is like during spring and summer when weather is really great and wonderful, the cuckoo bird mocks married men by crying cuckoo, cuckoo, because it kind of sounds like he's saying cuckold, cuckold, you know, because women can be running around and cuckolding their husbands in spring and summer when the weather is nice. And then when fall and winter come and everything is cold and everybody's trying to stay warm, the owl is hooting to-wit, to-woo, which is sort of like, hey, go do it, to it, get to it, which is a pleasing sound to the poor women who are just sort of slaving over a pot and kettle, trying to stay warm and trying to please their men, but they get to have a little respite and go have some sex in the interim. And then somebody, be it Armado, be it somebody else, comes out and says, well, the songs of Mars are not as much fun after the words of Apollo, so you go that way and we'll go this way. And then they part, and then the play ends. And that's how it ends. This comedy, Love's Labour's Lost, ends with a weird song about a cuckoo and an owl, and then they leave and go their separate ways. And they're going to have to spend a year apart before we find out what comes together. Now, there's been speculation that at one point Love's Labour's 1 was supposed to have been written. Maybe they started writing it. Maybe he intended to write it, but the sequel didn't get greenlit. Whatever that is. But this whole play, Love's Labour's Lost, is about all of the work that they put into finding this love. The issues with self-image that came about from, making this oath in the first place and then having to break the oath and having to come to terms with the fact that they were actually in love, and then trying to woo and trying to win the women and all of this sort of stuff, all of the things that they were doing. And then all of that gets lost in an instant because her father died and she had to go home. And it's a weird, kind of a weird way to end a comedy. So then to have that and then tack on a song about a couple of birds and then they go their separate ways, it's a little weird. I don't know. There is, for those nerds out there, there is an episode of Doctor Who called, I think, the Shakesyear Code, where the Doctor and his companion travel back and they meet Shakespeare, and Love's Labour's 1 is being performed, but there's a twist to it. So go watch that episode if you happen to like Doctor Who. Or if you've seen the episode of Doctor Who and want to comment about it, please leave a comment in the section down there. And tell me your other thoughts on Love's Labour's Lost as we have wrapped it up today. And tomorrow we get into New Play Day with a play that a lot of people call the Scottish play. Some people call Mackers, which is a shortening of the name or a changing of the name that I detest, but whatever, that's another thing. And tomorrow I will tell you why I personally am uncomfortable saying the actual name of the play and why lots of people are uncomfortable saying the name of the play, which is why they refer to it as the Scottish play or Mackers or some other variation thereupon. So come back for New Play Day tomorrow as we dig into the Scottish play. I'll see you then. Mwah.